Can you see my screen, Stephanie?
I can.
Okay. Go to... And I think it looks like if you want to control, you have to click on your remote control, and then I allow.
On my remote control, where's that?
Up at the top where you see your, well, it might be at the bottom. It's where you see your mute, stop video.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see remote control on there?
No.
Oh, maybe it's not going to let me do that when I'm in.
Okay. I think we'll be okay. We can.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to present here. You just tell me when I need to flip.
Okay. And we're just at 201 on my...
Yep, and I can't see that anymore in this view. So.
Oh, sure. Teamwork.
Yep.
Hey, so ladies at Lynch, how are everybody loving your building? I mean, is it being met with a warm welcome?
Yes, very nice. And we love the air conditioning in the fall too when it got hot.
Yes, and tomorrow, right, when it's going to be 90 degrees.
It's going to be 90 tomorrow?
Yes.
Well, I'll have to see that.
Wear some shorts for recess duty, right?
Yeah.
And then back to 40 the next day. So
Yes. It's nuts.
It's enough for everybody to get sick.
yes.
Yeah. Hey, Rayleigh, what school are you at?
She said Rayleigh. No, Rayleigh.
Yep. Really, I unmuted you if you were. Can you hear us?
What school are you at?
Those are crunchy, aren't they? How do they go on the front last picture? I don't know. I'm gonna sit off to the side. I don't want to look at myself.
Ditto. That's the hard part of Zoom, isn't it? Probably don't want to look at, we're in these temporary offices, and so it's kind of not very pretty around here.
It'd be interesting to see the atmosphere change via Zoom when we're in our new environment, right?
Mm-hmm. Boy, Tina, we can use our new little conference room and not be huddled around one tiny little computer.
I'm excited. It's coming up fast, too.
Yeah. Well, I think to honor your time, we might as well get going.
I think so. We're 5 after.
Yep. And Tina, you have it recording. Is that right?
Yep, we are recording.
It at the top. Okay, awesome. Well, hey, thanks for everybody who could join us live today for our first Zoom of the 2018-19 school year. So we're so excited to see you. We're going to talk about helping students with organization. And again, this is part of our Camp Para ESU8 for the year. And I'm Steph Wanek, staff developer here at ESU8.
And I'm Tina Sauser, a technology integration at ESU8.
Yeah, so if you tuned in last year, you probably are pretty familiar with us, but we've kind of taken this charge to help work with paras, who we believe are some of the best people in our schools. We love every opportunity to meet with our paras.
Absolutely.
And here are our emails too. So if you ever have any questions at all, please let us know. And even, just yesterday I was at a school and they were talking about having us come in on a early out to work with paras right on their school site too. So just know that that's available if needed.
Sorry about that. I was trying to get out of it and it clicked.
You're just fine. You're just fine. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to show you here real quick. I'm going to take you back to our ParasofESU8 site here. If I can get out of there. There we go. Because we've obviously made some changes for this year. So just a reminder to get there, if you just type in bit.ly/parasofESU8, you're going to get to our main landing site. And this site is going to be where you can access pretty much anything that we talk about, registration links, anything, even the recorded videos. So this is where you'll go. If you notice, this is our landing page, and right on that front of that landing page is the agenda for this year's training. So it has all of the dates on there, the times, and
Yeah.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
Well, something that's a little bit different this year is that we're meeting quarterly instead of monthly. So once a quarter, it's the even number months that we'll meet.
And the topics, as you know, the topics are also on that document. But if you want to get to the details of everything for this year, there's a couple places you could click. The easiest one is right under here where it says 2018-19 training page. And if you click on that link, it's going to take you to our Camp Para training page for this year. Right here is the link to join Zoom. So if you're ever in doubt or you're not sure where to find that link, it's always right here at the top, and it'll take you right to us. And I need to move this up, it looks like, but the registration link will be right underneath. So if you need to go in and register for the next event, you can click right here as well. And then, as you see, our August resources are right here. So we have our presentation from August, and I don't know if you've noticed, but Stephanie and I always put a lot of links and resources and information in those presentations, as well as in some of the documentation. And so we have all of those right here on our webpage. And we did the Camp Para session at Norfolk and then again at Madison and for the big group. So all of those resources in there are specific to those trainings. And then we have September, and it'll continue. I'll put the Zoom link over here on the right-hand side under the September resources of the recorded Zoom session that we're recording for each month. And that should say October.
Probably want that in there in September.
I'm not ready for October yet. I think that's my problem. But anyway, it'll all be here on this page for you. So if you need any of the resources or you need any of the information, I try to put everything that we address here on this page. Stephanie, do you have anything else to say about our webpage?
Nope, just kind of use it as your resource, come back to it, and you should find everything you need.
Yes. All right, so we'll go back to our presentation here.
So today's topic is really on helping kids stay organized. I think that is one area where it just really gets in the way of kids learning. Just that organization of being able to take things home and bring things back and find things when they need it, and the amount of time that we really waste on organization, being disorganized. Or I know I had a friend who I taught with the night before, and I kind of differed and said, no, I think maybe they did it and it got lost somewhere at home, or just didn't make it back because of organization issues. So I think this is something we can really help them with, and I think Paras, you're oftentimes there to offer that support, maybe at the end of the day when they're packing up, or throughout class periods during the day. If you're a secondary para, I think this really comes into play because you're helping a kid stay organized for all day long as they go from classroom to classroom. So organization really is one of the skills that we talk about with executive function. We talked a little bit about executive function last year too, but here's a good description of what it is. It's the neurological process that lets us organize, prioritize, and analyze is called executive function. Children with ADHD and related neurobiological problems have impaired executive function skills due to abnormal dopamine levels in the frontal lobe of their brain. So it's chemical, right? Part of this is chemical. Also, executive function is highly hereditary. So if parents are really super unorganized, for instance, holy cow, the kids might be too. And then, if parents even are unorganized, maybe they haven't had a good model of what good organization is. So we see these things creeping up. And Tina, we want to go to the next slide there.
Yep. And I think it's important to note that this it's hereditary, but with the proper instruction and proper outline, it can all be modified so that they do have better organizational skills. They just have to be taught how to do it.
Yeah, and that's what we'll hit here too. Yep. So with organization and the other executive function disorders, punishment will not change disorganized behaviors that are related to brain pathology. Only strategies for those disorganized students will. It's confusing to teachers and parents when students with ADHD or maybe other just executive dysfunction are inconsistent in their ability to organize, because it may seem like the child is just sloppy or lazy. And sometimes that's easy for us to just say, oh, that kid doesn't want to turn it in. Oh, that kid's just sloppy. Oh, they're lazy. Oh, they never put anything away. But if a child handles one task in an organized way, it's tempting to believe that he could always be organized if he wanted to, but that's just not necessarily the case. With executive function, it truly is a dysfunction. It is a skill that they have to learn. It's a skill that they don't know already. They don't know how to be organized yet. We have to teach them. And there's a good link down there from a magazine called Attitude, and it's about ADD. And now, not all kids with executive dysfunction are ADD kids, but about 75% of ADD kids do have executive dysfunction. So they're highly correlated.
And I think if you get into this article that was written, it has some really good tangible ideas on how to help kids with this at all different levels. I really liked some of the examples in here that it talked about, and it talks about at different levels. You can parents and teachers and students themselves. So I really liked this article.
But I think over and over with executive function, what we have to remind ourselves these are missing skills. The labels don't help, saying they're lazy or they're sloppy or whatever, or that they don't want to. We really have to go back and teach some skills. And when we go back and teach them and we give them that necessary support all along the way, then kids learn these skills for the rest of their lives, so that when they go off to college or go off to a job and don't have a para or a teacher following them, helping them with these things all day, they can be successful on their own. So there's the 8 tips that can really help with organization. And one is to set up and stick to a schedule. I was just laughing with Tina. Our lives at the ESU this year are kind of crazy. And I think in schools, I bet you could feel the same way. But when there isn't that consistency of a schedule, I feel so scattered. A famous book about executive function is called Smart But Scattered. And, sometimes sticking to that schedule and knowing it and keeping to it really just helps kids organize their thoughts and their mind to be able to stay on track.
And I think that piece also helps when you're talking about kids can have behaviors because they are not sticking to a schedule, because their schedule's been off. And I'm sure you guys have seen that in different situations. But if you're used to a schedule and then all of a sudden something's thrown off, especially those kids probably with the executive function, it's really hard for them to get back on track or to even focus on what they're supposed to be focusing on. So I think that's an important one.
Yeah, and I think, too, we see that in their lives at home, right? Kids go from school to activity after activity at night, and things are really busy. But when we can have that schedule and even plan in sometimes for homework or things like that they need to have done, we're teaching them that skill for their whole life. So it's awesome. Another thing is to clean up the clutter. When you can't find your things, right, and there's clutter everywhere, that really comes in the way of your getting done whatever you need to get done. Can you find a pencil? Is your homework where it's supposed to be? Things like that, but just cleaning up that clutter. And 3, monitoring all schoolwork. They really need some help with this. Okay. And we can teach them the skills as we talk through it with them each and every time. That can really help. And if we can teach parents how to help them monitor their schoolwork, that can help too. Now, some parents don't know what to ask their kids about their schoolwork. So can we give them a sheet of questions to ask at the end of the day, or a topic to ask? Or in newsletters, sometimes I would say, ask your student about this thing. And I'd give some different questions that they could ask about things that we were learning. Maybe we make a checklist that they go over with their parents at home, something like that. But sometimes parents aren't going to check up on them, so they need an adult at school. And Paras, oftentimes that wonderful person is you, to kind of check up and see, have you gotten your homework done? What's troubling you right now? What do you need extra help on? What do you feel really good about and you really have mastered already?
And I think part of that too is you guys get to see them sometimes right away in the morning before they even get into class. So just checking with them, hey, did you get this finished? Where are you at with this? Those types of things is helpful too. And you have that time.
At the end of the day too, I think that end of the day of what are you going to go home and do tonight, and just talking it through helps them out. Sometimes I have a hard time remembering what happened in the morning. I'm sure kids do too. They forget that assignment that was left over after reading class. Okay, we talked a little bit about this, but enlist that help from parents. And again, sometimes we have to offer them some strategies too. But when we can get the same message happening at school and at home, that's really where the power comes in for kids. It's consistent. Everybody's talking the same language. 5, we talked about creating a checklist too. Those checklists really help you. And we're going to talk more about that when we talk about backpacks later and taking things home. But do you like a to-do list and remembering what you have to do? Because I do. If I don't write things down, it's pretty common for me to forget them. So creating those checklists and just teaching kids that that's a strategy for life, whether it's a grocery list or a to-do list or whatever. Maybe it's a list of things that you always need to pack to take somewhere.
And there's a lot of great tech resources for that. Things like Google Keep or just even digital resources that your kids might already be familiar with. They just need the help in creating or designing what works for them. And I know they, a lot of schools will have, and we've talked about, we'll have this up here too, planners. But sometimes those planners get lost. And so sometimes it's just finding out if that kid needs that digital resources. There's lots of options and resources out there for them to make those checklists. And I did put those in this presentation. They're underneath on the notes. When you look at the presentation, you'll be able to see some of those tools that you can help kids use.
Also, just different memory aids like mnemonics, where you use maybe even like an acronym or something like that to remember, oh, these are the things I take home. I take home my my folder, my books, and my, I don't know, I'm trying to spell something out here, but use the first letter of several things to create that little acronym for them to remember what to take home or remember how to do a math problem or whatever. Memory aids really help out.
And for some kids, in fact, those memory aids or even in the checklist, pictures work best for them because they're visual learners. So it's just finding what fits best for the student.
Mm-hmm. I think we can all remember the order of the planets, right? Based on my very excellent mother just served us 9 pizzas, right?
Do you know that there's a lot of those acronyms like that fit with the planets? I did not know that there were so many.
Oh, I still remember some of those, even the notes on the scales and things like that, all because of those memory aids. But
yep.
Number 7 is use a buddy system. Have another student in the class check over things with one of your students that needs help with some organization. I used to have desk buddies, and I would sit a kid with a really organized desk next to a kid who really struggled with organization. And they would just kind of help keep them in line and keep them in order. Usually those kids who are super organized like to organize everyone else too.
And I used to do that actually at the end of the day too. I would have the students, everybody had to check somebody else's paper just to make sure that they had everything down, because I had a class that was always forgetting homework. And so that was the way to kind of help them out. And so they weren't really buddies. It was just, if you finished writing, go check another person who's finished writing. But everybody's got checked by the end of the day, and it really did help a lot.
And I had a class where I assigned study buddies, and they would talk through their homework. I had several kids that just didn't do their homework at night, and they'd talk through what they were going to go home and do first and things like that. So that seemed to help a little bit too. And the 8th tip for helping kids stay organized is to label and color code everything. I think, it's self-explanatory, right? Labels help us out. They help us understand what things are. But when we color code things, and we'll talk about this more with lockers, and we group like items, like maybe by the subject, they're color coded. That can really help out. Or maybe, I made sure that in my class, every kid's homework folder was the same color, so that I could refer to it as your green folder. Put that in your green folder, and we could keep track of things that way. Other things was like their desk folder was always another color, so that they knew that keep that desk folder at school, keep that home folder, in their backpack where they're going to take things home. So labeling and color coding really helps. And then there's a link at the bottom of the page here that really goes through each of those steps and gives you some ideas. It was a really nice list, I think, but that's something else to help share with parents. So like I said, if we can keep that communication open, all the better. And maybe, I'm sure if kids are disorganized at school, it's driving their parents nuts too, right? I'm sure they have a messy room. So parents would appreciate a system like this that's going to make life easy. So talk with the teachers that you're working with, and maybe you can reinforce that at conferences or something like that. For me, my biggest trick is a place for everything and everything in its place. Everything that has a place, and when everything has a place, my life is kept very organized. It's when I don't have a place for something that things start to get messy. So, for instance, I love to cook, right? My kitchen is my favorite place, and every spice has its special spot. Every utensil has its special spot in my kitchen. I'm very particular with where things are put away. But me as a classroom teacher, I struggled with my desk there, because my desk wasn't my own. It belonged to me and 20 little bodies in my room. And they would start throwing things on my desk, and there wasn't a place for them. So things quickly got out of hand. So I have to remember my own coping skill about finding a place for everything, putting everything back in its place, and teaching kids and talking to kids about that is really important. I had to tell them, this basket is for any paper that you want to put on my desk. Okay. This other basket is for papers I need to grade, and things like that, where I talked it out with them, and I think that helps them with their own organization too. But anyway, so can we help kids realize there's a place for everything and everything in its place?
And that's why I kind of like the idea of the homework folder, where especially the young kids, because my kids bring home lots of papers. And so on one side, there is a picture of a house, and it says keep at home. And then on the other side of the folder is a picture of a planner page, and it says do homework or something like that. So then
return, maybe even.
Yeah. And so that everything that comes out of the one side stays at home, and then everything that comes out of the other side, it's got to go back in that side and go back to school because it's homework. So that's.
Well, I think honestly that helps parents. Like you're talking about it as from a parent's point of view, and the parent that gets 3 of those folders home with all this stuff to maybe sign, maybe return, maybe do this, maybe do that. It does take a lot of organization to keep it all going. So the first place we're going to talk about is a kid's desk. Okay, so I remember loving to be the desk monitor as a classroom helper job in my elementary classrooms. And, you know, every Friday we took time to clean out our desks, and somebody would go around and inspect them to make sure things were clean. But really, having a clean desk is just about finding your supplies when you need them. I don't like transitions for kids. I don't like wasting time. So when I would say, get out your pencil or get out your this or that, I'd want it to be done pretty immediately. I don't want to waste time finding things. I remember I had a little guy in my classroom who had a hard time with his pencil. Finding a pencil was like, a Where's Waldo game every time. So I came up with some different strategies for him. One is this picture of Velcro here. We'd Velcro his pencil to the side of his desk. And something about that Velcro, number one, sensory kids really like to just run their finger over Velcro all the time. But also, he thought it was pretty novel and unique, so he liked to Velcro his pencil to the side of the desk. I've given kids pencil bags to put in the front of their desk. Just taught them what that little lip in the front of the desk is for, to put a pencil. Different kids, like we'd have a spot on the top of the desk to always put their pencil. So, you know, they just have to consistently use it. Every time it has to go back to that same spot. But I think it'll alleviate all that wasted time if they have a spot for their pencil. And I just think keeping less items in the desk is just a big key. So if you have somewhere else in the room where they can have a box or an organizer or a bin, one of my classrooms almost had like a little locker for each kid without a door on it. That was awesome, but that luxury I know is rare. So if we can keep less things in the desk, you know, there's less to organize then. Oh, let's go back one.
Yep, sorry about that.
Right.
There we go.
And then use organizers or boxes. You see in that picture of the desk, there's a little bin that the teacher bought, probably $1 a bin type of thing. And I used to have those for each of my kids. I didn't have room for them in their desk. They wouldn't fit in their desks, but I had them on another bookshelf. So each kid kept their crayons and glue sticks, scissors, all back there, because I taught a grade where we didn't use those a whole lot. But in the desk is great. And then little flat boxes. I don't want to call them beer flats, right? But we'll go with pop flat, right? Flats are great. They almost work like a drawer in the desk. And just like at home in pantries now, they're making all those drawers so you can see what's at the back. They can use that as a drawer and slide it out and get their supplies in the back. So that's my tip. I really like using those.
And it's a huge time saver if you can organize and help them keep their desk organized. And hopefully the thought is that it would carry over to other things, not only at school, but at home. But those skills have to be taught, I think, is the important part.
I'm just having a little brainstorm with that box too. You could almost have them draw out onto the box, like where their crayons would go, the outline of their scissors, where their scissors would lay, or something like that. And each spot, you know, could have a little label on it.
Yeah. Especially if they're always losing pencils, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so some other strategies for the desk are you could draw a diagram of a well-organized desk and have little arrows going to what's stacked up where. I always liked on the left side, I always wanted their books and maybe notebooks to be stacked. And on the right side, their supplies. And so you could draw little arrows there. You could take a photo of his or her desk with everything organized so that they know to replicate that. Give them the actual photo printout. They'll want to keep that around and use that to help them. Also, just talk about the organizational methods and have students help decide how it's organized. So just kind of tell them, where would you like to put this? What, you know, if you need to find this quickly, how can you get it out quickly? And let them make some of those decisions. And then you can even create like a yes-no chart. And the yes could be an organized desk, you know, part of it. And the no could be a picture of what it looks like when it's messy. So lots of times we like to examine those examples and non-examples that would help them out. So, and I think a desk is a daily process. For a kid who's really struggling with this, cleaning it out once a week on Fridays isn't going to be enough. It needs to be maybe class period by class period for a while, and then day by day. At the end of every day, are we going to just pick up a few things? And this is a place where a checklist can really help out too. Is my pencil in its holder? Are my books piled on one side? Are my supplies on the other side? You know, things like that.
And I think too, when you talked about those pictures, you know, if you have a picture of a desk that is organized and one that is not, that could be a simple reminder at the end of each day, and just have you walk by and ask them to point to, what does your desk look like? And then they can go and fix it if it doesn't look like the organized desks. And just a nonverbal cue, and something that would be probably take less time, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next, let's talk about the locker. So the locker is kind of like the desk for the older kids. And when I think about getting your locker, it's in a hurry. Kids have such a small passing period now. I think one school that I know of only has 2 minutes for them to grab their supplies and get to the next class. That is very quick, especially if you think they're going to stop at the restroom too. So this has to be stuff organized so that they can grab it and go. So one thing is that you could color code subject materials. In my mind, reading is always red. Always has been red for me. So I would want to have something red on maybe my book cover, then a red folder and a red notebook, maybe to go to reading class. For me, math has always been blue. So all of my math supplies would have some blue on them, so I could just grab them and go. And you see in this locker here, this picture, the kid, even, you know that this is a girl, right? It is so clearly a girl, so I'll say that. You know that this girl created the cheat sheet on the locker door. Totally do that for a kid that you're helping keep things organized with. You know, and it doesn't have to be that big so that it becomes embarrassing. Maybe it's just on a little note card inside something that they're always have with them, so that they know, you know, like those colors by the period of the day. And that's another thing. Organize them by time that they're going to use them. So first period is over to the left, and then second period, third period as you go right can really help them out too. You can use cereal boxes at the bottom here. They show some cereal boxes that are kind of covered and made into kind of like a magazine file. I realize 8 of those wouldn't fit in the bottom of a locker, but maybe they can't go back to their locker after every period. Maybe they're going to take a couple subjects at a time into their backpack, and that could help out. Or there could even be one that has like anything that they're going to have to take home by the end of the day. So they're just going to, at the end of each period, drop the things that they're going to take home in that one bin. And then also, I used to always have a locker shelf, and I see in this picture they have one too. That really helped me out. So my books could be on the bottom and all organized. And then up above it, I'd have more of my lightweight supplies and things like that, and I could find things easily. So those locker shelves are a good thing, I think, here. And in this picture, they almost look like they're cool, made out of wood and sturdy. Mine fell a few times, and maybe I'll get around to organizing them again soon.
I absolutely love this idea of color coding. I wish I had done that in high school, because I so would have related. And I as a visual learner, I would have just been able to go and grab what I needed and be on my way. But I spent a lot of time digging in my locker, so I love this.
Well, and I see these binders are each color coded. Now, most kids aren't going to have a binder for every subject. I actually worked with a family member last year who was struggling just going to 6th grade, keeping everything organized. He had one binder for all subjects, but within that, you could use some of those tabs to separate the sections that are color coded too. So just have that one main binder to always take with them.
And if you had one, it's less room in your locker taken up too.
Yeah. And backpack, right? I mean, taking everything home. Backpacks. Hey, how did I know that? That would be
nice transition.
So backpacks. Oh my gosh. You know those kids in the class, right? Those kids who have the mountain or the pit in their backpack that is just loaded with paper after paper. and they're scrunched up, and they've been in there since the beginning of the school year. So really, we just need to get those materials home and back. And my rule for backpacks was nothing goes in your backpack if it's not in a folder. So nothing can get all wrinkled up and ruined. And that was kind of my desk rule too. Papers belong in folders. So here we actually have a cool video that this was actually made by a secondary student. And I think your kids would respond really well to hearing these messages from another student and not just the adults droning on and on about staying clean. But she has some really good strategies here. And actually, she has a whole YouTube channel full of ways to stay organized. And I think she's actually in college now, and she has all sorts of tips there too. But anyway, Tina will push play for us, and we can watch her. Oops.
Let me try that
That's
again.
the next one.
Yeah, I had to do this last time here.
Okay.
If I hit play first for some
Hey
reason.
guys, it's Keegan. Welcome back to my channel. Can you tell I did some decorating for fall? I also broke my fairy lights like a minute ago, so they're not on because they're broken. So today's video, I'm going to be doing a backpack organization. If you know anything about me, I am an organization freak. I feel like I can't be productive. I can't do anything. I can't get good grades. My life is not complete unless I am organized, and I've done a ton of backpack videos. I've done backpack essentials, what's my backpack, all that stuff, but I've never done an organization video. So I thought that I would do that because, like I said, I'm extremely organized. I also have a ton of fall videos coming up soon, but yeah. So let's get on into the tips. The shortest intro ever. My first one is if you have a ton of pens and pencils and highlighters and a bunch of stuff floating around your backpack, it takes up so much space, it's so unorganized, and you're overwhelmed with all the mess. So I recommend getting a pencil pouch or just something to put all of your stuff in. I like a little zipper, kind of like pencil pouch. I put my highlighters, my pens, pencils, glue sticks, all of that supply stuff that you write with or you use, small stuff, you know what I mean? I like to have it all in there. It's in one place, it's not cluttered, and I can easily find stuff, and it makes everything just so much more organized. I can't even explain how nice it is. Next one is to color code your notebooks and folders and everything for each class. So as an example, if I had an English class, I would use all of my English notebooks and folders and everything like that pink. So when I'm getting everything out of my backpack, I don't need to look like which folder is this. I can just take it out, know the color, and since they're color coordinated, you can get them both out at the same time, and you don't have to be like, wait, one's pink, one's purple, one's red. Like, it's a lot easier when I color code things to match for each class. This one is kind of lame, I guess. It's something that I like to do. It's like aesthetically pleasing for me, and it's to order my notebooks and binders and everything in like size order. And you don't have to do this. It's just something that I like to do. I find that I can find things easier when like the biggest things are in the back, so like nothing's like kind of hidden. I also like to organize them in order of class, so I'll have all my notebooks in class order. I'll have all my folders, first hour, second hour, third hour, and then all my notebooks, first hour, second hour, third hour. It just kind of like helps me when I'm trying to get things out really easily. I can see everything and I know where everything is when they're in order. It's kind of like a nerdy thing that I do. I don't really know why. I just find it very, wait, for some reason I just thought my light wasn't on, and I was like, how did that thing get turned off? But it's on. If you guys know me, you know that I love my planner. I live and die for my planner because it helps me stay so organized. So one thing that I'd recommend doing if you have a planner is to use a paper clip or a binder clip or something that will mark off what page you're on or what week you're on. So when you open up your little planner, it just opens up to the week that you're on. So you don't need to be like flipping through the pages trying to find what day it is. It's so, I keep talking my hands and I keep going like this, and I feel like a little T-Rex, like. But yeah, I would totally recommend a paper clip or a binder clip to find what week you're on in your planner so much easier. Next one is to put papers in your folders or your binder instead of just shoving them in your backpack. I know when like the bell rings and the teacher's like, you can't pack up yet, I dismiss you, and you're like stressing and you just like shove everything in your backpack, and then all your papers get all wrinkly. That's really like not aesthetically pleasing, and it really like makes me cringe a little bit when like papers are wrinkly. I don't know why. But if you just put all your papers in your folder before you leave class, your backpack just won't get messy if you put everything where it needs to be. Another tip is when you're doing your notes and everything like that, if you have handouts, have your folder on your desk. And so if you have your folder on your desk, it's so much easier to just like put your paper in there and then put it in your backpack, and so like take your folder out, then put it in. It's just like if it's on your desk, it's so much easier, and you'll be more likely to put your folder in the right spot instead of just shove it in your backpack and it'll get all wrinkly and crinkly and ugh. Does anyone else think it's gross when papers are wrinkly? Is that just me? Is it just, it's probably just me. As for folders, I'd recommend having a section in your binder that is just loose leaf paper, or having a section in your folder that is just loose leaf paper. You need loose leaf paper in like all your classes, so having a designated spot for paper, literally, it's so much better instead of having like some scratch paper and this thing and this thing and this thing. And in a notebook, when you have to like tear the paper out, and there's like the little side things, and I find the weirdest things to be disgusting, I know. Another thing is a homework folder. This is where I keep my loose leaf paper, so I just have a folder where I put all of my homework in, so like any like handouts I have. When I get home to do my homework, I just have to take that folder out and my planner out, and all my stuff is in there, and I have all of my homework written down on my planner, so I know what I need to do, where everything is. It's just really convenient. You don't have to go through each folder and binder tab to find out which handout and this and this and this and this for your homework. It's just really convenient and all in one spot. So one thing that I'd recommend doing is to declutter useless handouts, and maybe not necessarily notes, but just papers that aren't really doing anything for you anymore. When I was in 6th grade, I used to do this every Friday, which is really, that's a lot. I would recommend doing it like once a month, once a quarter. Just declutter a bunch of stuff that is weighing down your backpack that you don't need, like graded papers that aren't gonna help you study. Just get rid of them. They're useless and they're super heavy, so just toss them, recycle them. Maybe keep them, but just not in your backpack. If you have a photography or a videography class or something like that where you need an SD card, something you can do is get an empty mint container and put your SD card in there. It'll make it so much easier to find your SD card because those things are so small. And I've actually split an SD card in half before, somehow. I don't know. A mint container will protect it and make sure that it does not split in half. If you have bobby pins floating around your backpack, I know I used to have this all the time. I just cut out a little rectangle of a like cardboard piece. I don't really know where I got the cardboard. And then I just stuck the bobby pins on there and I just throw it in my backpack. The bobby pins stay on there. They're all in one spot. It's so much easier. It's not all over the place, and my front pocket is so much more organized because of that. And my last tip is for your headphones. So I know there's that tip where you can put like your headphones in like those like mint containers, like the big round mint containers. I don't like that because it's such a waste of space. Like those mint containers take up so much space, and for your headphones, it's just, who cares, like, well, whatever. So what I like to do to make sure they don't get tangled is I will kind of wrap them up and then take a hair tie around them and tie them off. It saves so much more space instead of a mint container, and you have a hair tie just in case you need one, and you have your headphones and they're not tangled, so it's like a win-win-win. So those were all of my backpack organization tips. Let me know if you guys like it. I think I have one, maybe two more back to school videos coming up, so let me know if you're excited for those. I love you guys, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!
Pretty sure she talks like that always, right?
She's pretty crazy, right? But I think that that is the voice that kids would listen to well, and it's relatable, and she does have all those little things that work for her, like the bobby pins and the headphones that we know kids are carrying all the time and can just lead to just clutter in the backpack.
And simple things to declutter.
Yes. So we have another video that will work more for your elementary kids. This is off that website that we talked about this summer, understood.org. So we'll watch this one, and this one's shorter, much shorter.
For years, my son Jacob struggled to keep his backpack organized. I still remember the crumpled papers, stinky socks, and lost homework assignments. Over time, we came up with a system to organize his backpack and keep it that way. Here's how to use a basic backpack to help kids with organization issues. This has lots of pockets, which go from small to big, so everything has its logical place. Help your child place small school supplies in the front section like this. Choose a pocket for books, notebooks, and folders. Figure out where gym clothes can fit. And then find a place for lunch or snacks. Even if your child's backpack is organized, that doesn't mean that homework assignments are getting turned in. Color coding is key. For younger kids, choose one brightly colored folder for homework. One side can say for school, and one side can say for home, to make sure that homework actually gets handed in. For older kids, let them choose a color for each subject. A green notebook to go with a green folder, for example, for science, so they know what to turn in for each class. Look at how organized this is. Of course, the question is, how to keep it that way? For Jacob, a small checklist has worked. Take a luggage tag and put a list on each side. Your child can check one in the morning to school and check the other before he leaves school to home. It's going to take some practice, so give it time. You can help your child with gentle reminders about the checklist and the homework folder. And a quick backpack check on Sunday nights helps us keep sane on Monday mornings.
Yeah, so again, they're just hitting some of those things we talked about, going through that backpack. It's so important. And to really talk to parents about that if it's getting out of hand. Also using that home folder, just, we just need to have that for them. And I think creating a checklist is great. You could laminate it and just zip tie it to one of the zippers, but how nice to use a luggage tag too. That was kind of smart thinking there, I think.
And they actually have a little luggage tag template for the checklist that you can download off of understood.org. And I do have it linked on the slide in the notes underneath. So
awesome. So the third one is that Keegan had talked about, is using a planner, just keeping track of those assignments. It's the to-do list for kids. And I know for me as a student, I had to have that. I remember, in elementary school, I always had my own planner, and, I had my mom check it over with me at night. I'd circle my homework. And I remember going to 6th grade in the first week. My teacher asked for our spelling work that was due on Friday, and I didn't have mine done. And I was not the kind of kid who didn't get my homework done. And I just panicked. I was mortified. I went out and told my mom we had to go get an assignment book. Even though they weren't mandatory to have at that point, I needed it. And I learned that. And then the same thing happened to me when I went to college. My first college that I went to, I just went to each class once a week for multiple hours. And so to keep track from week to week, all the things that you had to do was a lot. And again, I found myself at Barnes & Noble picking out a planner. And now there are so many awesome planners out there on the market. But I found out that that's something that I need in my life, and I still have to have those to-do lists. So planners are so important. I carried that over to my classroom too, because I knew about this skill. So what I did with my students at the end of the day is I put it under the document camera, and we wrote on our planners together. So for every subject, we wrote something, either a topic or an assignment. And I think, Tina, we can probably go to that next slide. Is it there?
Yep.
Yeah. So we wrote either a topic or an assignment for every subject that we did. If I was working with secondary kids, I'd make sure that they wrote that at the end of each class period. And for my little relative that I helped last year, I asked him to go show his teacher at the end of the class period and make sure that he had the right thing written down. I always teach him the skill of circling homework or highlighting it, maybe even. Again, that adult checks it over. So when I was in the classroom, I checked each kid's assignment book at the end of the day before they went home. It takes a few minutes, and quickly you find out which kids you need to look at more carefully. But I like to do that. And then I always had an adult at home initial it. And, this might not be done for every kid in class, but especially your kids who are struggling need an adult to see that. And I told the kids it was their job to walk up to their parents who are very busy with a pen or pencil and their planner and say, could you please sign this? It wasn't the parents' responsibility. It was the kids' responsibility.
Well, and I think having that from the parent perspective too, parents that want to get involved and are able to take time to get involved, being able to communicate and talk to them logically about what they've been doing at school, or, hey, what was this about? I think that's an important part of the planner.
It was a big communication piece for us, yeah. And then also at the bottom, usually we had a behavior box. So if there were any notes that we needed to have the parents read for the day, we just wrote a little note down there. Yeah. So on understood.org, also they had some printable planners and calendars that you could use with kids. Even I think it's nice to see that monthly view to kind of look at what tests are coming up, especially I think for older kids.
And I think that those printable calendars I kind of liked because they offer, if you notice on the right side, it says my goal this month. So if you have a student who really does struggle with organization and getting things done, you could have them set their own goal, to help kind of guide them in their own planning to organize. And these are, I went to them, and you can just download them for free from understood.org.
Yep. And for us at the ESU, and I'm sure for lots of your older students, Google Calendar is a lifesaver for us. Number one, parents could be shared in that same calendar, so parents could view their kids' calendar, and vice versa, really, for family things that are coming up. So, you know, really, no matter if it's Google or another calendar, teach them to use that calendar on their phone. That's what I did with another boy in my life for when he went to college. I'm like, you have to start using this. This is so important.
And I have 2 links down at the bottom of this presentation of short video clips on teaching students how to use the calendar and how to use a digital calendar and making it work for them, whether it be for their planner or for assignments or whatever. So those 2 links down at the bottom will be helpful and useful resources for you that you can feel free to share with your students as well. And I don't know what I would do. I would never be anywhere on time or where I'm supposed to be without my calendar and on my phone, because I tried taking, you know, I had a planner for a while. I don't keep track of them. And so for me to have my digital tool, which may be the same for many of your students, is if they don't have something digital or tangible within their device, then they're going to lose it too. So this might be the best option for many of your students.
So there's several organizational supplies that if you have those available for kids, it's going to help them stay organized. And these are things that are available in most schools. So, you know, have sticky notes around for them to write notes to themselves or to flag things in books. Have rubber bands around too to keep things like items together. Paper clips, like so simple, but it really helps to keep maybe all your homework together, handouts, or like the girl was saying that she, you know, kept a paper clip on her planner so she knew which page to turn to. Folders, lots of folders around, and, you know, they're so cheap. By no means am I saying for you to go out and buy all these things for kids, but usually schools have boxes of folders somewhere. Also highlighters, you know, going through their homework, their planner and highlighting things sometimes, or highlighting reminders on homework that can help out. And then those binders. Again, the relative that I was working with last year, he was having a hard time just keeping everything straight as he went from class to class. And at the end of the year, I asked him, so, you know, what's the secret? What would you tell another 6th grade student? And he said, get a binder. That was his big tip, is that's made the real difference to him. I talked to him as he started 7th grade here this year, and he said his binder's going strong. So it's definitely a skill he learned he needs. And then we just have to model organization. I think we have to show them what it means to be organized and talk about it as we do it. Hey, I'm going to put this right here. You know, well, right here. Here's my little bag I take everywhere with me. I'm going to put my pencils or my pens right here in this pocket, because when I need them, I just need to pull them out and find them. Or, you know, just kind of talk through what you're doing and why you're putting things the way you are.
And I think too, sometimes if you're organized, which for you guys might be kind of hard to do sometimes because you do travel a lot and maybe in a different classrooms and things, but if you can show them some of those components and how it works for you, they can kind of make those connections for themselves.
But for secondary students, they're a lot like you are, going from class to class. So you have to keep those straight. So I just wanted to have a little discussion here. So what are some of your students' organizational strengths? What are some things that they do well already? Go ahead and unmute if you want to share out anything to the group.
How about you guys yourselves? What are some things that you guys do yourselves to keep yourselves organized? We have good wait time, right, Steph?
Yes. Please share.
For me, when I'm to get organized, I have to have a list. I'm a list person.
Yep.
Do you have a written list or do you use a digital form? Written?
Yep, I have a written list. And if I don't get it done that day or night, whatever, I just add it to the list, the next list the next day.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Good.
good.
We have to teach kids those skills. Yeah. Okay, Teresa's site.
That was
I think that's who just shared. Yep.
Yep.
Boyd County, do you guys have anything?
Well, I like to be organized and I like to keep everything in folders, and I also like to make lists and know what I need to get done for the day or for the next day.
Okay.
Yep.
I carry a backpack with me.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Moves room to room with me.
And I think you just have to talk to kids about that, because chances are maybe their parents don't do these things, right? So we have to say, hey, we're going to need to go get some supplies for this project. Let's make a list. I do this at home too. I make a list before I go to the grocery store, or I am in trouble. Personally, that's true.
And I think it might sound weird or feel a little bit weird to talk about it at first, because it's something that you guys are probably used to, and you've figured out for years that's just like Stephanie said, she figured out that she needed that planner. But for kids who have never really been exposed to it, or who maybe their parents again are disorganized themselves, this might be something that they need to hear, and they need to see how it works for you. And so sharing those pieces with them is always a good idea. Again, that goes back to modeling.
And I think too, sharing how it feels at the end when you turned your homework in and it wasn't late, or it wasn't all wrinkled up, or it wasn't whatever. It feels pretty good when you finally get organized. And I should have put this slide in, but my favorite book as a kid was the Berenstain Bears in the Messy Room. And at the very end, they have a whole closet that's all organized, and there's little boxes and bins for every kind of toy, and it's all labeled. I'm really not type A, but I love that page. I love when it looks like that. And to talk to kids about how did it feel like when you could go over and get your supply and you knew where it was and it was quick and easy. So is there a certain point of the day or a certain area of their life that you see students really struggling with organization?
I see it more at the end of the day, trying to get their desk or cleaned up and get ready to go home there.
Yeah, try to find all their stuff that they need to take home maybe.
And they're tired by that point, right? They've been in school all day, so their minds are already spent. And so, thinking of some of these strategies that we've listed, like checklists and things like that, and planners, and getting some of that information down before the end of the day even. And then at the end of the day, it just becomes a check and balance. Make sure that you have everything written down, but it's already there for you.
Yep. So do you guys have any great organizational strategies to share out that you're using? Or have you seen any teachers use some great strategies with kids?
I was gonna say the teachers in kindergarten and first grade, they have like the kids' mailboxes, they have like little boxes and they're taped to the front of their desk, and that's where they put all their take-home stuff. And then when it's time to go home, they just pull it out of there and stick it in their to-go folders.
That's awesome. So it's right there with them all day long. They're collecting it, and so it's really just grab it and go at the end of the day. Good.
Yeah, and then they don't have to search for those papers. I like that idea.
For me in my classroom too, it was like I liked all the materials organized in all the spots. So I involved the kids in that, like they were a part of that. It wasn't that I picked things up and put them away. It was like, hey, can you help me out? And I think that taught them some skills too, and how to do it. And it took one thing off my plate. But most little kids love to help.
We used, when I taught elementary, we used our smart board, and at the end of each curriculum area, one of the kids would come up and write on, I had a homework page that we pulled up at the end of the day. And so one of the kids would come up and write the assignment from that lesson that they would have. And so by the end of the day, we already had it all compiled. It's just we had to bring it up. And then again, that was our check and balance, make sure we had everything and that the kids had everything.
Yep.
We were talking about organizing things, but like first thing in the morning when the kids come, they need to change their shoes for PE. So I make sure they organize their shoes and it's a nice little row of shoes instead of just throwing them in a pile someplace. So that's just
a real skill too, because I just did that in my own closet.
I wish you would teach my kids that. My shoes are all dropped right in front of the door, including their dads. So we've been working on that. But, you know, if you do that skill right away in the morning and your kids are learning that at school, that's the potential to take that home is even greater. So I love that idea.
Maybe it helps. I don't know. And then when they come, they change their shoes and then they get a high five for when they come in with their homework folders. So that's how I start my morning.
So you're building relationships just like we always talk about too.
I hope so.
Awesome. Okay, Tina, should we move on to the next one? We're just about to say goodbye. We want to see you again in December. We're going to talk about aiding the anxious learner. So we've seen more and more kids with anxiety. So how can we help them out? And just thank you. Thanks for coming today.
And we're a little over time, but this was a good session. Thank you guys for sharing at the end. I greatly appreciate that.
And just thanks for all you do every day for your kids. And we love seeing you here. And remember, let us know if you have any questions at all.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Have a
guys.
good afternoon.
What an easy afternoon snack time. Man.